Ooh, and look at that, we've got another OC development journey video. Today's video is a character who is permanently a side character, but forced me to develop my own character design skills, Keeri Verona. Yes, she's named after the fair city of Verona from Romeo and Juliet, but she's also Aero Ace, so I'll never actually be able to use that fun fact for anything other than the fact it's a fun fact. Throughout this video, you will see the design start to become black-coded. I first designed her when I had no idea what that was, and about 7 years later, I like to think I'm at least decent about it. I've learned a lot about black features and hair texture through her. I'm still learning a lot, and I've got a ways to go, but I'm having fun with it. So the context of this video is that I have a lot of OCs, and I've had them for a good while. And recently I released the first chapter of my webcomic Keys of Corruption, which happens to have all of those characters in it. Keys of Corruption is a world where only 1% of the population is born with special powers called keys, but distressing things start to happen to Rose Kingsley when her mentor dies. This sets into motion a dangerous chain of events that will change Rose's life forever. Essentially, a bunch of young adults become politically aware and try and topple a fascist government. So if that sounds like your thing, there's a link tree that houses all the different sites you can read it on in the description. And now that the boring intro and plugging is done, let's get on to Keeri's OC development journey, consisting of 2 prototypes and a final version. To start off with, let's go back to her very first prototype, the fairy tale fanfiction. The past 2 videos of these have also started in the same place, and that's because I made all of these characters together at the same time, but they've all grown at different rates. Keeri's name originally came from me misspelling Joe Keery's name, and to be honest, most of my greatest inventions have been me misspelling things. But Keeri was created to be the balance between 2 of my fiery characters, Rose and Hallie, who both have OC development journeys. I'll leave them in the description too. She was mature, level-headed, and smart, but she had a deep dark side that used to present itself when using her magic, and it would end up cracking her face and her arms a little bit. It reminded me very much of a porcelain doll cracking a little bit, and it was always around the eyes, which kind of made her a little bit blind. Keeri's magic was time manipulation. I wanted it to be a very basic version of the magic Altair uses, but she could eventually level it up by learning specific spells. I also picked this because I'm pretty sure I just watched Doctor Strange, and I loved the way that his magic circles went up his arm when he used the time stone, so I was totally imagining something like that when I was writing. I also loved the magic circles from Lollyrock, so I kind of combined the 2 together to make the amalgamation that is Keeri's time magic. Touching briefly on Keeri's dark past, because in writing this video, I realized that it's a running theme that she has one, even if it changes from version to version. In this version, she was a part of an evil guild called Phantom Lord with a couple of other characters. They ended up joining Fairy Tail to go on the path of good, but Keeri was already kind of good before this. She was actively manipulated into being bad, so when she realizes that's another way, she stops immediately. However, all of her development wasn't shown in the fanfiction because it started after she had already settled into the guild. Keeri was fun to write against really chaotic characters because she always just smiled at the antics and would go along with it, even if she didn't really like the idea. Like, she'd be looking out for them with a plan B or a C if needed. She was very much the chaos protector to Rose and Hallie's chaotic nature. The next stop on our prototype tour is the fairy tale / haikyuu crossover alternate universe fanfiction I never wrote. This was supposed to be a powerless world where they were all in different mafia groups and had to work together to defeat a common evil. This idea has turned into a completely original comic that I want to make at some point in the next 20 years. I hope it's not 20 years, but let's overestimate here. So I'll probably keep most of the actual world lore to myself, but I still wanted to share Keeri's journey. First of all, this is the point where I realized what black coding a character was, and I was still pretty new at it, so her hair isn't right, but I got some of the basic black features down. In this version, Keeri is slightly more stoic than the previous version, but I chalk that up to her being older. In the last version, she was 18, in this version, she's 25. Keeri's a lot smarter in this AU, designing an entire algorithm of digital assistants. They're not AI because they can't learn by themselves, as well as working them into a security system that she also designed. Think along the lines of Fitzsimmons from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She does both the engineering and the biochem. Now that I think about it, Keeri is just an amalgamation of a lot of MCU references. You can really tell that shaped me as a child. Much like her previous iterations, Keeri has a dark history that allows her to know a lot of information she probably shouldn't, like personal relationships between her friends and villains, and information about the city that she lives in that no normal person should know. It's entirely obvious to the audience that she's running from something, and the more information she slips out, the more likely it is for it to catch up to her. The thing she is outrunning is in fact her past. When she was a kid, she was heavily abused and manipulated into this child weapon, and when she wasn't useful anymore, the abuser threw her away. She ended up having a major breakdown and killing a lot of people because of it. On her road to salvation, she hides this trauma under soft smiles and helping as many people as she can, but she's always drowning, and there's this deep worry that the only thing she'll ever be good at is killing. One of my favorite things to do with large casts is linking backstories together, and Keeri in this story is the reason why I fell in love with doing that. For example, one of the other characters is the child of the villain, who was the one who abused her. That way, not only does she have personal stakes in the stories, but an actual threat to her good-natured vibe, as well as the friendships she's made. Since I never actually wrote this idea, that's really all I can say on it, but this prototype really did shape the way that Keeri's backstory is written and how she's presented in Keys of Corruption. Back into a powered world, Keeri has her time manipulation powers back, and they're a little bit cooler now, since I know how much I can do with them. However, Keeri hardly uses her powers, only really healing small wounds or clearing a path of debris temporarily. She hates using it for large periods of time, especially against people. This version of Keeri is clearly an abuse victim, and Keeri and the audience have no idea how badly it was. Keeri can't remember much about her childhood, only remembering a cold, looming hand that metaphorically sits around her neck, which reminds her that she's nothing, attached with the sounds of screaming. I call that Trauma 101. Keeri's a lot shyer in this iteration, borderlining socially anxious. She's still level-headed amongst her chaotic and short-tempered friends, but hardly ever voices her support or disagreement unless she thinks it's absolutely vital. She's still quite smart, in a majoritarily different way to her friends who are book smart and street smart. Keeri's able to think on her feet and come up with plans on the fly that usually work out. She just needs to work on vocalizing them. The way Keeri uses her powers is mainly reversing time or pausing certain things. She hates forwarding things as she believes it knocks everything out of balance. She's not religious per se, though she does believe that there's something after life, or at least she hopes. But she does firmly believe that if nature is messed with too much, nature will always mess back. Which is why she ends up kind of agitated for the first half of the webcomic, because she gets dragged into a situation, one that she'd describe as the second biggest mistake of her life, and now that feels like something will be out to get her. I guess superstitious is the word. As you can see, the black coding is in full force now. I loved the braided hair from The Sims 4, so I made my own heavily inspired version of it. I still struggle with black hair, especially the texture of it, but I'm actively trying to create characters who have different types of curls so I can practice it and feel comfortable with it. If anyone has any good advice or good resources for that, please put it in the comments. I'm always happy to learn. If you've enjoyed my ramblings, please like and subscribe because I have a ton of OCs. I would love to do OC development journeys for all of them. Once again, all my important links will be in the description, and I'll see you all in my next video.